Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is our first post-Pesach Shiur, 5780. We are going to learn this morning, I guess this night. It's supposed to be a Wednesday night Shiur, but I am doing this Tuesday morning. We are going to learn a very short Gemara that was covered about a month and a half ago in the Daf Hayomi on Daf Mem Ches Amud Aleph 48a in Maseches Brachos. It's a very short story. We're going to end at the end with a little bit of a longer story. But what I want to try to do over the next coming weeks is learn a story and then use that as a springboard to discuss the personality of a Tana or of an Amora. The Tanaim being the rabbis in the times of the Mishnah, Amoraim being the rabbis in the time of the Gemara. So this Gemara, first we're going to say, where is God? That's going to be the focus. That's going to be the title of the learning together. And here we go. We're going to begin with source number one. Katan hayodea lemi mevarchin. First of all, the Gemara begins with a discussion about what if I only have two people? Can I make a zimun if I have a kid? There are two adults. We both had sandwiches, and there's my son, my 10-year-old son, is next to me. Am I allowed to include him in the zimun? Similarly, if I have if there are 9 men that ate together, and you have a 10-year-old, are you allowed to include that child in a zimun? Can he become the third, or can he become the 10th to make a zimun? So the Gemara says, "Katan hayodea lemi mevarchin." If you have a katan, you have a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old, whatever it is, and he's yodea lemi mevarchin, and he knows who you're benching to, right? He knows about Hashem. He knows that you're not just saying words, not just reading a story, but ultimately you're thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the food that you were blessed with. So that the psak in the Gemara is mizamnin alav. You're allowed to include him in the zimun. And then the Gemara tells our story. Abayei v'Rava havu yasvei kamei de Rabba. Abayei and Rava were yasvei. They were sitting in front of Rabba. Amar lahu Rabba. Rabba then says to them, Lemi mevarchin. Right? Who are we making the bracha to? Maybe they were about to make a different bracha, or maybe it was benching, but that's not necessarily the real goal of this story. Rabbi says, I guess, when you make a bracha, or maybe they had just made a shahakol nehiyah bidvara, whatever it was. Lemi mevarchin. Said Abayei, Rava, who are you making a bracha to? Who are you benching? Who are you thinking about? Who's the blessing going to? And obviously they're very young at this time. Amrei lei. They both said l'rachmana. To HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Amazingly, that very often we refer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as Rahman, as the merciful one, as the compassionate one. So who are you benching to? We're blessing to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Rahmana Heicha Yosef. And then Rabbah puts forth. He says, right, Rahmana Heicha Yosef. Where does God sit? Where does God dwell? So first of all, you look at the third source, the Maharsha. The Maharsha explains this question. They already answered the question. They got it correct, right? We're making the bracha to Rahman, to God. So why does he have to push? Why does he have to say, where does God? Why do they have to ask that question of where is God? V'rachmana heicha Yosef. So if you look at the third source, Demasha amr le l'rachmana efshar da'akasi lo yadu. Maybe just like, you know what? Thank you, Hashem. Hashem is here. Hashem is there. You're just the fact that you could say, oh, to God. It doesn't mean that you know really who, quote unquote, who God is. When you tell a 3-year-old and you give him a candy and you say thank you, do they understand the midah of gratitude, of hakaras hatov, of being grateful and appreciative for something? No, it's almost like that's just what they're supposed to say. So that Maharsha says that's why Rabbah pushed forward and asked again. I understand that you say l'rachmana, that we have to bench, that we're benching towards, we're blessing Hashem. But v'rachmana heicha Yosef, back in the middle of the second line of the first source. V'rachmana heicha Yosef. Where is the Kodesh Baruch Hu? Rava achavei l'shmei tala. Rava pointed to the roof, to the tela in his home. He points to the roof. Abayei nafak libra acharei kalpei shmaya. And Rava goes outside and he points to the Shamayim. So Rava, they both point upwards. Rava points to the roof in his house. Abayei goes outside, and Abayei points to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the sky. So Rava achve l'shmei tala, Abayei nafak libra achve kalpei shmaya. Third line, fourth word. Amar luhu Rabba. Rabba then says, back to them. Tarvayu Rabbanon Haviyasu. These two are going to be great. These two are going to be great rabbis. They're on a path for greatness. Hainu Damri Inche, and this is what people say. I don't know, we people probably don't say this, but Butzin Mekatfe Yadir, that you have like melons, right? Very often you know if the melon's going to be good. Butzin Mekatfe Yadir. The Mefarshim say here that really, even from a young age, they knew they were going to be great. Sometimes when a fruit is almost in its infancy, I guess if you're that person that knows about fruit, you can tell very often whether it's going to be a good fruit or not. So the story is basically that Abayei and Rava are asked by Rabbah, who are you benching to? Right? You can include a person who knows who they're benching to. You can include that person, that kid, that child, in a zimun. Okay? It's Hashem. Then he follows up. Where is Hashem? Rava points to the roof, and Abayei goes outside and points to the Shamayim. So here we go. So first of all, there is a response. The Iyun Yaakov says, why did Abayei, they're both correct, right? Why did Abayei feel the need to say differently than Rava? So the Iyun Yaakov on this Gemara explains that, sometimes you ask one kid, what's 4 times 4? And he's thinking, and there's another kid in the class who screams out 16. So he says 16, and then the kid who was asked, who hesitated, he goes 16. You don't know, the kid who hesitated, you don't know if he really knew the answer, right? So by the fact that Abayei, the Iyun Yaakov says Abayei couldn't just say the same answer as Rava, that doesn't show that he's unique, doesn't show that he knows anything, that he's understanding anything differently. We're going to see a more beautiful answer. Let's see just first of all what's the halacha, because it's a very, very important halacha. Now, if you are Sephardic, so then you'll like the halacha. Katan, second source in the Shulchan Aruch. Katan shehigia leonos hapuutos v'yodei lemim bevarchin. If you have a katan who gets to a certain age, right, that he knows v'yodei lemim bevarchin, he knows who's benching to. Mizamnin alav, you can include him. Umitztarif bein l'shlosha bein la'asar. He could act as number 3, or he could act as number 10, which will allow us to say Elokeinu. Haga, then the Ramah says, and that's how the Shulchan Aruch paskins. The Shulchan Aruch paskins, and that's for the Sephardim, that they'll include a kid. For some reason, it's probably this is probably food for another shiur. Ashkenazim are much more strict with respect to including ketanim, to including boys less than bar mitzvah age in any of the ritual. Very often you'll hear at a Sephardic shul that someone less than bar mitzvah will say a haftorah or will lay in a week or two before his bar mitzvah. Ashkenazim are much more strict, and we see that they're more strict in this halacha as well. Just like the Shulchan Aruch already said, that if he knows l'mim mevarchin, we're allowed to be mitzdarif bein l'shlosha bein la'asara. Haga, but then we quote the Ramah, Ramoshe Isserlis, we don't include him at all until he's 13, and that's how Ashkenazim paskin. So you have machlokas here, a disagreement here between the Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah, and therefore we have in practice we also have a disagreement in different customs between the Sephardim and the Ashkenazim. But that's the halachic point. Let's look at the larger source on the bottom. This is a tshuva. This is a sheilot to tshuvot. It's a tshuva from the Tzitz Eliezer. The Tzitz Eliezer is a modern day posek. He passed away, not exactly sure, but 10, 15 years ago. He was the Rav of Shari Chesed, the hospital. Major posek in Eretz Yisrael, Eliezer Waldenberg. And his Rebbe was Reb Tzvi Pesach Frank, also one of the great rabbis of Yerushalayim, and he quotes a Dvar Torah. You'll see a Dvar Torah that he heard on the last Sukkos of Reb Tzvi Pesach Frank's life. Eliezer Waldenberg, the Tzitz Eliezer, was in his Rebbe's Sukkah, and happened to be the last Sukkos of Reb Tzvi Pesach Frank, the author of the Har Tzvi of his life, and he says this idea, which is a beautiful, beautiful idea. Ask you lezeh mashu shemati b'hir Rabbeinu. At my visit to him in his sukkah, b'chag hasukkos ha'achron l'beichayav, right, at the last sukkahs of his life. Perish nifla, the Gemara brachos daf memches. He gave a perish nifla, a wondrous, a beautiful, a magnificent explanation to a Gemara in brachos. That's the Gemara that we saw earlier. Demuva shem sipur kazeh, and then he goes through the story about the Rava Habu Yasvi Kamei. Yosef, Amar Luhu Rabba, Tarvayi Rabbanan. They're going to all be great. Wonderful. We are in the 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth line of the Tzitz Eliezer, third, after the colon, third word. B'shal Rabbeinu. Rebbe asks, Rav Tzvi Pesach Frank asks, what was so wonderful? What was so great? How did you see the greatness of Abayei, and how did Rabbah see the greatness of Rava and Abayei at such a long answer, at such a young age? Strictly from this answer of either the roof or the Shemayim. Ubiyoter shel Abayei, and even more so, Abayei shenofak libra lachos kalpei Shemaya. And even what was so amazing, specifically of Abayei, that it says he went out and just said the Shema, pointed to the Shemayim. Uvia. The kol echad heishivetshuvaso, that everyone answered their answer, v'hidgishu, and he emphasized v'gitu shlefi matzavo shayanim sabo. This is magnificent, and they emphasized. Rava emphasized his life situation, and Abayei emphasized his life situation. What does that mean? There's a big difference between Rava and Abayei, the way they grew up. Rava was blessed with parents. Abayei, unfortunately, was an orphan. Abayei's father passed away when his mother was pregnant, and as the Gemara in Kiddushin tells us, right, that when his mother got pregnant, his father died, and his mother died in childbirth. So what happened? Rav has parents. So where does he get the blessing in the world? Where does all the blessings, where does all the brachos, all the shefa, the bounty, everything that in his life, where does that come from? That comes from, according to Rava, Tala, the roof. His house is represented, is almost the tzinor, the pipe. It's almost the middleman from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the home, his parents, and then that ultimately gives him, right, all of the bracha. So Rava says, who am I blessing? I'm blessing the roof. Meaning, I'm blessing HaKadosh Baruch Hu through my house, because my parents were the ones who got everything through Hashem, and they ultimately blessed me. So I know I'm blessing HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but within the construct of my mind and my upbringing and my understanding of life, I felt HaKadosh Baruch Hu's love through the embrace of my parents, and that's how I see the representative of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the world, according to Rava, was his parents and his home, and that's why Rava specifically, according to Rav Tzvi Pesach Frank, quoted by the Tzitz Eliezer, is I see that through the embrace of my family and my home. But Abayei is different. Abayei is an orphan. Abayei never had parents. So what does he see? His is much more raw, right? He sees really as the gift of life and the gift of everything. He sees it much more clearly, directly, intimately, straight from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He wasn't spoiled, blessed, whatever it was, to have a family. He just had HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he saw that so much maybe more meaningfully than Rava, because it was maybe a nace that he survived. It was a nace that he was raised to live and to be successful and to be loved and to be able to become something and become someone great. Right? He said that, and then he quotes a pasuk that we say in the David: "If avi v'imi ya'azvuni, if my father and mother, if they forsake me, if they leave me, so you know what? At least I know I have a Kadosh Baruch Hu. I can be in his embrace." So this story, the greatness, you see that they personalized HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There was a unique individual personalization of HaKadosh Baruch Hu because of or due to their upbringing. And that I think is just historical, whatever it was. It's a beautiful, beautiful idea. Just interestingly, in the story, who really took care of Abayei? So it's interesting that it was the teacher was Rabbah, and Rabbah was impressed with Rava and Abayei, but Abayei was the nephew of Rabbah. Rabbah was Abayei's uncle, Abayei's brother. I think his name was Kalil. And as the Rashi tells us in Maseches Kiddushin on the back of the page, so we know that Rabbah is Rabbah bar Nachmeni. Rabbah is Rabbah the son of Nachmeni. He was Gidel Abayei bebeso. he raised Abayei in his home. V'limdo Torah, and he taught him Torah. Shahaya Yasom, because he was a Yasom, because he was an orphan. So Rabbah raised Abayei. We know that Abayei's name is not really Abayei. It was an acronym. If you look at the third source on the page, it says there's a pasuk in Hosea, and Abayei was known by his name. Why? It was really an acronym. Asher B'cha Yerucham Yasom, right? Asher B'cha. For it's with you, Asher B'cha, it's with you, Yerucham Yasom, that the orphan finds mercy. An orphan finds mercy with you, with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a capital Y in you. So the Aleph of Asher, then the Bet of B'cha, the Yud and the Yud of the Yerucham Yasom forms the name of Abayei. He was called Abayei because either that was given to him, or ultimately maybe he called himself Abayei. He felt intimately close that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was taking care of him at every second and every moment of his life. When Rabbah says in the when Rabbah says, "Oh, these two Rav and Abayei are going to be great rabbis. They're going to be amazing. They're going to be wonderful," the Gemara testifies to that. The Gemara testifies in two different places where it calls Havayos de Abayei v'Rava. The first news source on the back page is a Gemara in Sukkah. We also have a Gemara in Bava Basra that uses this exact identical phrase, Havayos de Abayei v'Rava. When Chazal refer to the discussions or the dialogues, the inquiries of the Talmud, of the Gemara. There was the Mishnah, and the Gemara is elaborating and explaining all of the Mishnayos. So Talmud, meaning Gemara, is described, right? The Talmudic discussions or the discourse are called Havayos de Abayei v'Rava, not with the names of any two other Amoraim, but Davka, Abayei, and Rava. Why? Perhaps because it must be that so great was their contribution to the development of the Gemara that they were called Havayos de Abayei v'Rava. Now, usually it's interesting because we're going to see a Gemara that Abayei seems to be greater, but usually in terms of halacha, they have many discussions, many disagreements. Abayei is actually, I think, he's the only Amora. He's the only Amora that's quoted in every single Masechta in Shas, in every Gemara in Shas. Obviously, he lived after the Mishnah, so he can't be in all 63 Masechtos in Shas of the Mishnah. But in every Gemara, there's not a Masechta in Gemara that doesn't quote Abayei. And Abayei actually, there is we're in the middle of counting Sfira, and we count days and weeks. So last night, this is Tuesday right now, so last night we counted 12. So we said that it's 1 week and 5 days. It's Abayei's Abayei mitzvah yamamnei yomei u'mitzvah yomei shavui. That it's Abayei's opinion that we count both the days and the weeks. So we usually, interestingly, Abayei seems to be greater from this last story that we're going to see than Rava. However, there are only 6 times in all of their disagreements where we paskin like Abayei over Rava. Okay, so why that is that could be a different shiur. That many young boys know this. If you learn the Parak Elu Metzia, so in Yeyu Shalom Midas, in that sugya, it's a famous sugya, well-known sugya. Dealing with the mitzvah of Hashavas Aveda, so we pass like Abayei over Rava. That's one of the 6 times we pass like Abayei over Rava. But here we're going to see a final Gemara give us a little bit of a taste of Abayei, this Yasom, this orphan that became magnificent, the greatest, one of the top 2 Amoraim to ever walk the earth, to ever forever for Klal Yisrael in the world to be blessed with. And we see in this last Gemara, this is a Gemara in Tanis, Abba Umna. Abba Umna was a surgeon. Rashi tells us that he was a surgeon, he was a doctor. He would make his dam, he would bloodletting. He was a bloodletter. And Hava Asi Le Shalma Mimesifta Dirakia Kol Yoma. Every single day, Kol Yoma. Every single day, he would Asi Le Shalma. He would be greeted by the Mesifta Dirakia, by the Heavenly Academy. Whatever that means. Maybe it's a bas kol. I think Rashi says that there would be a bas kol that would come and visit this Abba Umana, this surgeon. So what does it tell you about the surgeon? It tells you the surgeon was some amazing, out of this world tzaddik, and he would have a visit from HaKadosh Baruch Hu every single day, whatever exactly that means. We're in the last source. Ula Abayei, fifth to last word on the first line. Ula Abayei, when would Abayei ever get a baskol? Would Abayei ever get visited by the Mesifta de Rakia? Kol Mala Yom Shabbos, every Friday, every Shabbos, Abayei would be greeted by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, by a Malach, by whomever. Second line, L'Rava. This is why I said that Abayei may have been greater than Rava. L'Rava kol mala yom Kippura. Rava was greeted by the Mesifta de Rakia. He was greeted kol mala yom Kippura. Every erev Yom Kippur. So there's this surgeon every single day. Abayei every Shabbos, and Rava only once a year. Only once a year. Okay. So now Abayei. I'm a competitive person. So Abayei might have also been competitive, but he wasn't competitive to be competitive. He was jealous in a positive way of, what was it about this surgeon that HaKadosh Baruch Hu visited him and he had a baskol every single day. I need to work on myself. I need to be better. So what does he say? Abayei was chal shadais. He was frustrated. He was sad. He was depressed. He was down. Mishum da Abu Umana, because the fact that Abu Umana was visited every single day. Remember, it's not jealousy in a why does God love him more than me or this or that. It's that I need to do something. I also want to be visited by this baskol every single day. So the Gemara says that Abayei was chal shadaita. He was frustrated, down, depressed. Amrulei. So they said to him, what's so awesome about this surgeon? Amrulei lo matzis lemevid ku'uvda. So he says they said, sorry, the Amrulei, lo matzis, they say back to Abayei, your actions, your deeds aren't good enough. They don't measure up. You're not like him. So now the Gemara asks, Umay havu uvdaya Abayei umana. What were the actions of this surgeon? And then he says a couple of amazing things. Whenever he would do his work, meaning his bloodletting, he was very makbid, he was very careful on tznius. He would have maybe two parts of his office or two entrances, this and that. He would have one entrance or one room for the men, for the gavrei, for the gevirim, right? And the women would have a separate entrance or a separate room. He didn't want any mingling between the men and the women. The islay levusha, the isbei karna. They had some type of garment where the isbei karna, that it would have like I guess some type of like suction cupped horn at the end of it or something. Bezia kevasilta. And it's, I'm not 100% sure, but basically what happened, it would like slit it would pierce some type of laceration, some type of cut into her skin, right? And it would take the blood, it would get rid of the blood. Okay? And ki havas asiolei isisa have a malbishla. Whenever a woman, for a man, he would just take the blood and it would be normal. But for a woman, they would put on this specific garment, and he would take out the blood. He would do the bloodletting in a very, very, very private, in a very, very modest, in a very, very tsanua way. She would put isisa hava malbish lei, so that he, the surgeon, wouldn't look at her, wouldn't he doesn't want to have any inappropriate thoughts. So he did it in the most sanua way possible. We're in the third to last line, right in the middle. So that was one thing. He was so makbid, he was above and beyond in the world of not only just sneas and privacy, but think about the woman, treating her in a very modest and very respectful way. He didn't want chas v'shalom her to feel violated or inappropriate at any point during the exam or during the procedure. And he would also have a place outside of his office, outside of the operating room, another private where people would put their payments, right? Pshita, they would deposit their coins. So you didn't give him the coin, you didn't give him your check, right? You didn't give him your money, your shkalim, whatever it was. You deposited the money in, let's say, a mailbox. Why did he do that? And what was so great that the Gemara is telling us about this surgeon, that he would do this, that this was one of the great things about him? The islay shadi bey, right? Whoever had $100, 100 shkalim to have the procedure done. So the islay, if I would have it, shadi bey, I would put it in, I would pay. The leislay, what happens if I can't pay? Lo michsef. right? I wouldn't have to even face him and say, Doc, I'm sorry. I'm out of work. I can't make the bills. I'm not working because of coronavirus, whatever it is. And now I can't, I wouldn't have to be embarrassed. So the islay shadibe, if I had it, I would give. The leislay, if I don't have it, lo michsif, I wouldn't be embarrassed. What a kavod to other people. What a beautiful, beautiful kavod to other people. Second to last line, kihava isrami le tsurba, and then the last thing, kihava isrami le tsurba abanon. Sometimes he would have young budding Talmidei Chachamim that would be his patients. And igra minei, money from them, lo shakil. He would never take money from them. But not only that he wouldn't charge. There are many people, Talmidei Chacham, I'm not going to charge him. In our school, we have a wonderful dentist who I think he's an oral surgeon actually. Someone told me that there's a kollel in town where he works. And he doesn't charge the kollel. He doesn't charge the kollel guys. So that's part of stock or chesed or whatever this and that. But that's the same thing here. This guy, he wouldn't. These young budding Talmidei Chachamim, igra minei lo shakil. Ubasar dekai. So let's say this budding Talmidei Chacham comes. He doesn't charge him, but it's not really that he doesn't charge him. Ubasar dekai. After the procedure, after he's done, yahiv le pshite. He would give him coins. He would give him money. And he would say to him, zil bari nafshecha. Go and make yourself healthy. I mean, go eat something. You just took blood out. You got to eat, right? So so this is what Abayei wanted to be like. He wanted to be like this this surgeon, the tznius and the not embarrassing of caring about the other people and if they were going to pay, and they're not charging the Talmidei Chachamim, and they actually giving them the Talmidei Chachamim money to buy something. To become healthier. So we saw this beautiful Gemara that had the explanation of the Tzitz Eliezer through his Rebbe Pesach Frank on how to understand the difference of Rava and Abayei. Their astounding answer, magnificent, wonderful, terrific, tremendous answer that they gave to the question of Lemim Mevarchim. And Tzitz Eliezer said that it must have been within their upbringing, their childhood, the way they were brought up in their homes or not in their homes. We saw a little bit of the greatness of Abayei, and then we finished with really ultimately Abayei maybe playing second fiddle to this Abba Umana. But you see the greatness anyway. Just to forget about the Abba Umana, amazing that every Erev Shabbos HaKadosh Baruch Hu would visit Abayei. What a wonderful, wonderful story with some of these things, especially this last story. Many of the wonderful midos to aspire to. Have a great, great week. I'll see you next week.